Hi, I'm Dan Danford. We're doing a series of podcasts for DadsDivorce.com called Money Made Easy. Usually a viewer on the website poses a question to us, and I do my best to answer the question. This week's question is near and dear to my heart. I'm considering hiring a financial planner to help me with my finances and meet my lifelong financial goals, but I have no idea where to start or who to choose. What are the right questions I need to ask when choosing a financial planner? Terrific question, and one many people wrestle with. And unfortunately, this is tougher than it might seem. Kind of a general statement is that many people assume that all financial planners or advisors or brokers are kind of created equal, and it's just not the truth. And that's one of the things that makes it so hard to make good choices. Now, I have some kind of rules that I use, but I want to touch on a couple other things first. One of the things is credentials. Oftentimes when you encounter somebody that's a planner or a broker or an advisor, they'll have a bunch of initials after their name, kind of the alphabet soup. And all of those mean something somewhere, but few of them mean much to consumers. The one that has kind of risen to the top as an industry mark today is the CFP. That stands for Certified Financial Planner. And that really is kind of the benchmark. But it's also important to note that not all good planners or advisors carry the CFP designation. So while it's a good benchmark, it isn't necessarily the only benchmark. In fact, a lot of people who come from more non-traditional backgrounds don't have the CFP mark. Now, for instance, I came up through the ranks of banking. I spent my early career working in the trust departments of banks where we managed millions upon millions of dollars, but we didn't really operate in kind of a sales environment, and we didn't really operate in the brokerage world. So earning the CFP wasn't as important in my business. So I don't have the CFP designation, and there are a lot of people like me out there. Even so, that's probably a good place to start. If somebody does have a CFP, you know that they have done a prescribed amount of work and passed some pretty comprehensive exams over and above the simple securities examinations that everybody has to have. So I would say that's a good place to start. But it's not the only one. And it also touches on the second area that I'd like to talk about, and that's that it really matters a lot what part of the industry you came up in. Now, that may not seem obvious, but it really is. If somebody is an advisor today, but they came up through, say, the insurance business, then they probably have a set of beliefs and biases that are common among insurance people. Similarly, if somebody came up through the brokerage world, they probably have some beliefs and ideas that are common among stockbrokers. Now, here's the thing. Not everybody fits into those common beliefs. For one thing, insurance is a good example. Most insurance people believe that everybody needs insurance. Okay? That's just an absolute in their world. Everybody needs life insurance. Okay? Well, I can tell you from my experience that there are certain people who need life insurance more than others. If you're very young and don't have dependents, it probably doesn't matter so much. If you're very old and your family's grown, again, it probably doesn't matter so much. So that rule, everybody needs life insurance, may not apply to everyone. And if you're only talking to a life insurance salesperson, they're probably going to lead you that way. Now, that's not saying anything wrong about life insurance. They believe that, and they'll have examples of why it's true. I'm just telling you that they may have a different set of beliefs than somebody that came from some other background. So it's important what industry they came from. Another benchmark that I use with people is experience, and experience is kind of a double-edged sword. In the first place, many people who are in the investment business, okay, well, let me say it a different way. A lot of people don't get to stay in the investment business. A lot of people start out in the investment business as either a new broker, a new insurance agent, or a new financial planner or whatever, but the washout rate is extremely high. So as many as 4 out of every 5 people who starts doesn't finish. And if you look at those numbers, it's a relatively small group that actually make it 5 years. So another benchmark is, if you work with people who've been around for 5 years or longer, at least you're working with people who have demonstrated that they can stay with it. Okay, they have enough competence, that they have enough clients, that they've shown they know enough about their business to make a living at it. Now, the side point on that, or something that's at least worth noting, is the difference between the ones that make it and the ones that don't are often sales skills. Okay? So a person with 5 years of experience may be a very good salesperson. That doesn't necessarily mean that they have all that much competence in the various things that are important to investing and financial planning. So that's just a caution. As I said, a lot of these things, you know, they seem like they're really important, but it's not as simple as it sounds. What I tell people to look for, number one, is look for somebody you're comfortable with. Okay? Sit down and talk to them. See if your beliefs and your values match up with their beliefs and values. That's a good point, because if you aren't comfortable with them, you probably aren't going to have a very good relationship. The second thing I say is find out if their clients look and feel like you. Okay? If you're a young family, then find somebody who works with a lot of young families. You know, in my situation, many of the best clients that I have are people who have families similar to my own. I learned lessons putting my own kids through college, raising my family, saving for my retirement, that are helpful to other people who are now going through what I already did. And I think that's a real important point. If people have a family or situation that is like yours, then they probably encounter similar investment subjects. So finding a planner or an advisor who works with those kind of people is probably going to further your situation. And then the third thing, most really good clients come to us through referral, and that's probably the best place to find out about a planner. Is ask around, talk to people you know who have been successful financially, and ask them who they work with. That's a good way to find people who are good. The alternative to this, when I teach classes at school, I always ask the students, I always say, where did you learn what you know about investing? And the typical answers are from my dad or my mom or my grandpa, you know, all those kinds of things that people say. And then I say, well, how are they doing financially? And then you just see this look come over their face like, well, they aren't doing that great. Okay? The point is, those are people you can trust, but they aren't necessarily people you want to emulate. You know, find out who the successful people are using and ask them for referrals. That will lead you to people who can help you with your situation. I know that wasn't a concrete answer, but it's my best answer on a very difficult subject, and that is how to find an investment advisor or financial planner. Okay? I hope it's helpful to you. That's it for this podcast. We'll see you next week on Money Made Easy.